There seems to be an awful lot of sad stories in the news today, and there are thousands missing. Does anybody care? We built a channel where we talk about those faces. Talking News with Debbie. Cassie Barnes has still not been found, and it's been 2 years since her case first hit the spotlight. Breaking. Chad Gable and Lori Vallow both behind bars. Sarah Galloway was found. She wasn't found alive. What happened to Sarah Galloway?
It's too heartbreaking to share.
Children are still missing. Children like Dorsey. You're in shame. You just got away with it. Welcome to Talking News. Hello everyone. My name is Debbie. We use big stories to push little faces.
Hello everyone, welcome to Chasing a Murder Talking News. I want to ask you guys, before we start, will you please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell if you'd like notifications whenever we have new uploads. So I'm on the go, no mic, trying to make this video because this is something I know that I'm interested in, and I felt that many of you might be interested in as well. So our document man, Justin Lum, the reporter for Fox News, has shared some more documents attached to the Lori Vallow case. And Lori Vallow's attorney, Mark Means, has declared many motions. He has 4, in fact. 1. Motion for state to disclose Brady violations disclosures. 2. Motions for criminal dispositions. 3. Motion for out-of-state subpoena. 4. Motion to disqualify Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. Now, a lot of people might be surprised by this, but not me. I've been waiting for Lori to get a little bit of freedom. If she can get some freedom, she's going to dig her hole just a little bit deeper. And right now, I have several speculations as to why Mark Means has these motions in place. There's several reasons it could be so, and also I feel that there's a possibility that Lori Vallow might have got herself backed into a corner, made herself look a little bit competent because she's reaching out for help, and so Mark Means needs to do some damage repair. So that's my idea of one reason that these things might be happening, or maybe Mark Means is telling the truth and Lori Vallow, which most of us don't believe, and the facility that she's in at this time, deemed incompetent, trying to seek treatment in order to become well, is dealing with an employee that kind of went beyond what they should do in order to help Lori Vallow. But it doesn't make sense to me because they're trained employees, especially on this case. So let's kind of go over what I'm talking about. Mark Means starts by saying that on or about June 8th of 2021, the court entered an order to commitment regarding the above defendant, referring to Lori Vallow Daybell. Lori, the defendant, was further committed to the custody and the control of the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. But something strange happens about October 15th of 2021. He says on this day he met with his defendant, Lori Vallow, in person at the committed site under the control of the Idaho Health and Welfare, and we would call it IDHW. He says he's having a conversation with Lori, and it's brought to his attention that there's an unethical and possible illegal activity, discussions, disclosures, and manipulation of an incompetent defendant. Another way that you can look at this is he found out that Lori's doing some things that might make her look like she's able to help herself. He said that prior to meeting the defendant, she was being treated by one of the employees there, and he's being identified on papers by NC. On or about October 5th of 2021, the employee and Lori Vallow were engaged in watching the transfer of trial motion regarding the defendant, Chad Daybell. So something that these people need to be aware of is her trying to manipulate her way to get her way and do things. So what is she allowed to do there? We don't know. She's interested in watching this trial. She obviously is able to have some interest and idea and understanding of what's going on. So Lori Vallow is sitting with this employee, and they are watching this motion. It has to do with her sweetie pie, Chad Daybell. And for some odd reason, during this conversation, which we don't know what else was said, which should be actually looked into while he's doing all this, he suggests that she contact the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, also known as the LDS. And his reasoning for this is for legal counsel to discuss her case and to possibly obtain legal counsel to assist her instead of the state-appointed public defender. So I know for us, we got a lot of questions going on, like why would he be suggesting something like that to Lori Vallow? Was she hinting that she didn't feel like she was being represented? And why would this employee feel that they could speak to her about the case? First thing you need to know about Lori Vallow, and this is my opinion, guys, based off the research I do, is she knows anywhere she goes, she has to become buddies with whoever she's, with, being treated by, being taken care of by. She knows in order to win anything or get anything or have anything she wants, she has to win them over. Something she's very, very good at. And really, at this point, could be, depending on what was said that day, could be used to prove her competence. But let's go with what Mark Means is saying. He's saying that this employee took the recommendation further and then provided Lori Vallow with direct phone numbers to contact the LDS Church, that council, and issued an order saying it was part of the defendant's homework for her treatment. According to Mark and Lori Vallow, this employee checked in with Lori Vallow later to ensure the assignment was completed. And NC also told Lori Vallow that it was a good idea to call the LDS Corporation. And Mark Means says that his client should have not done this on her own without one of the IDHW employees being there with her. Even more interesting, he says that his client, Lori Vallow, did not want to make this phone call, but it was a mandatory nature of homework. And if she had not been given this homework, she would not have called the LDS Corporation. Then he goes on to say, without any proof whatsoever in this motion, that the defendant was forced and manipulated by those in position of authority who is also in control of her incarceration, every move, actions, treatment, and so on. Then it appears that sometime soon after this mandatory homework assignment was issued to Lori Vallow, and given the LDS telephone number, Lori Vallow called the LDS Church headquarters in Salt Lake City, Utah. When Lori finally got a hold of the LDS, a female receptionist answered and asked who she was speaking with. According to the motion, Lori disclosed that she was seeking legal counsel with her criminal case. She also disclosed that her name was Lori Vallow Daybell. Could you imagine the look on that receptionist's face when she heard that? It might be unbelievable since she is incarcerated and under treatment. How is it that this woman that we know that has been arrested and charged with murder and conspiracy of murder, just deemed incompetent, making a phone call to the LDS Church? So what we're hearing is the receptionist, then transferred Lori to the attorney to believe to be one of the many LDS Church Corporation legal counsel members. and that would be Mr. Daniel S. McConkey. A very familiar name in this case, at least for myself. According to documents, Lori introduced herself to Mr. McConkey by name as Lori Vallow Daybell, and made by the Brady violation, is what he calls it, or the Brady rule, disclosures under this guise that the church was her friend. It was there to assist her both temporal and spiritual, directly regarding to her current criminal state of affairs and legal matters. So I guess he's trying to say that the church misrepresented what they were doing for Lori Vallow, which they're probably thinking, how in the heck is she calling when she's incarcerated? Might even think that it's a prank. Well, anyways, Means thinks that he kind of led her the wrong direction by leading her on that he was there to help her. He also bragged about his 30 plus years of criminal as a prosecutor, and told the defendant that he knew every detail in her case. And Means is actually saying that this actually led Lori to make disclosures she would not have done without these assurances. So let's think about this. So Lori is seeking out the LDS on her case, and she wants to talk to them about legal things, and now they coerced her. So guys, I'm kind of doing this live. Now, Mr. McConkey, which I've looked up for a brief moment, I haven't been able to look in him totally like I wanted to, but they say that he is a legal counsel, but I've never seen where it said he was an attorney. Anyways, Means suggested that Mr. McConkey actually never advised Lori that this is a possible conflict of interest, which, you know, it's going to be hard to believe what comes out of Lori Vallow's mouth. I mean, she's quite a deceiving, manipulative story maker. And that, my friends, is no speculation. This is fact, and you can look it up and see several examples of that. A lot of people are speculating as to why she done this. Some people even doubting the fact that she has faith in Mark Means any longer. That, to me, is the least likely scenario. Mark Means says that he's worried that his client wasn't being protected by an attorney-client privilege, and that Lori believed to be protected confidential by rules of the spiritual world. He doesn't go into much details on the spiritual world, but he says that Lori describes Mr. McConkey as eager to discuss her case. That's an interesting choice of words, eager to discuss her case. This is something she's looking for, obviously. It also further, in my opinion, shows that she is very competent in understanding what people are trying to show her or say to her. In fact, for such an incompetent person, Mark Means has so much faith that in everything she said she understood. Continuing on, only after certain disclosures were made by Lori, Mr. McConkey told her that he would assist her with finding an attorney that could legally practice law in Idaho and possibly provide her with assistance with her matter. Mr. McConkey said that he would get back to her, but Mr. McConkey never got back to her. Instead of getting back to Lori, he actually called the prosecutor, Mr. Rob Wood, which is the prosecuting attorney for the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell cases. And then he actually says that they were to discuss this matter between Mr. McConkey and his client Lori, and disclose statements of the defendant Lori. Sometime after this conversation between Mr. Wood and Mr. McConkey, Mr. Wood called an attorney to disclose this conversation, limiting the conversation with Mr. I really don't want to slaughter this name, so Mr. Archibald. That Lori had only told Mr. McConkey that she wishes for a new and not state-appointed attorney. So if this is true, and Lori was truly looking for a new attorney, why would she confess this to Mark Means? That makes no sense. According to Mark Means, Lori actually contacted NC and told NC that she made the call to Mr. McConkey at the LDS. And according to Lori, NC replied with good. So this lady employee, now get this, notice what's about to happen right here. Okay? So Lori relayed to the employee, NC, at a later time, that she had told her legal counselor, Mark Means, of the encouragement to call, the call, and the conversation. And the employee's response was, quote, "No, you didn't," end quote. And Lori describing that this employee had a concerned look on her face. So here's where it gets kind of strange. Mark Means writes again, the defendant has publicly documented obsession with the LDS Church Corporation and her controlling belief of its divine origins and truth of religious matters, to the point that the LDS Church and its legal counsel and the like can control and manipulate the court system, judges, prosecution, and the like in this very case. Sorry guys, I don't know legal terms, so it tongue twists me a little bit. The imbalance or unrealistic belief of the defendant, Lori, appears to have been purposely used against Lori to engage or to act against her own self-interest and without supervision of her attorney. And he makes sure he puts his name there, Mark L. Means. The behavior by those with power and authority over the defendant Lori are believed to have engaged in unethical, again, you know he's good at this, legal and psychological rules of ethics, possibly illegal. He's an attorney. He knows whether it is legal or illegal. It should anyways. Here's a man talking about ethical standards when he's the one tweeting out to many people involved in this case as rats. So I'm not going to read over every bit of this, but I'll leave it up to where you can. So Mark claims that the LDS Church and Corporation has embedded itself in this case by way of public statement, which is dated August 4th of 2021, and had initiatives to disavow connection between Lori and the church. Then he jumps back to the fact that the LDS, or Mr. McConkey, stated that, quote, "I know all the details of your case," end quote. And he claims that Mr. McConkey has made himself a witness to this matter, as well as opened doors of the LDS Church to be obligated to produce all external memorandums, notes, emails, recordings, texts, voicemails, and basically dealing with the state prosecution and the defendant. How? Wow, guys, isn't that quite clever? It almost seems set up. Like I said, would Lori really not want to deal with Mark Means? After all, she stuck with him through the worst parts. Why now does she want to get rid of him? This is why it's very, very important that everything said and done be documented and recorded when you're dealing with Lori Vallow. She's very mischievous, in my opinion, and I've been expecting this to come to play, but I mean, really, why would a professional fall for this? Well, that's interesting. So we won't know if that was the case until we get all the information. Then Mark Means does something that he probably shouldn't have, and he says, in addition, the prosecution has been allowed to attempted manipulation of essential witnesses with the use of the LDS Church Corporation scripture, LDS language, LDS positions of power, including but not limited to essential witness Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, and April Raymond. This concludes formal court proceedings. Now, it seems that some time has passed and somebody has let down their guard somewhere and has let Lori grab the reins along with her very suspicious attorney, and somehow manipulating a situation. That's my opinion based off of what I've learned from her. Because what Mark Means is saying happened is totally different from what I think happens. It's just very, very clever, because now he can use this opportunity to gain, to get resources for something he needs and that he's been wanting to get his hands on, but he hasn't been able to. One thing we know about Lori Vallow is she will cut people off whenever she no longer needs them, and many of her friends have testified to this. Lori has been ordered to do many things through the court, and there are years and years of documents showing that she is not easy to work with. She straight up denies when the court says you need to go in for evaluation. She will do everything in her power to avoid doing that, whether it is to create a situation, distraction, or manipulation. So Mark Means is saying that this employee said that this was a homework assignment. That makes no sense to me at all. I don't think I believe that, and the only way that I would believe that is if they produce a recording saying that this person said you need to call the counsel of the LDS for your homework assignment, because it doesn't make sense to me at all that she's able to make phone calls without some type of supervision. So what's going on there? Was this woman manipulated, or is there someone that was helping Lori? I mean, do you think that's possible? So share below what you think happened. So it'd be great to hear an attorney's point of view of what the accusations Mark Means has in these motions. But this is something they need to start tightening up and quit giving just a little bit to Lori Vallow. This is a very extremely manipulative individual that will do anything to win. And that's my personal research on her. That's my understanding of who this woman is. So you have to come to your own conclusion. And I want to put it past, is there a possibility that somebody would try to manipulate her back? I mean, the world, how many people are involved with this group? I mean, that tells you enough. You have Melanie Gibb, Melanie Boudreaux, several new ones like Christina, Nicole, and Serena. And let's not forget Thor and a few other of those people. So yeah, there's Zalima, I think, and Melanie Pulaski, one of the most manipulative people. You had Alex Cox. There was a lot of them, guys, that believed this. And Jason Mao kind of sitting on that fine line there. There's several other pieces of documents, but I'm not going to be able to go over it. It's raining right now, so I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. But please don't forget, we have girls that are still missing out there. And don't forget to subscribe and like and hit the notification bell. I love you guys. Y'all have a good Halloween that's coming up and great weekend, and I'll see you guys soon.